Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. Tonight we're going to do part 2 of the How to Draw Archie series. If you've seen part 1, we drew the Archie head that you see here. Drew it in pencil. And tonight what I'm going to do is I'm going to add color to this. And in part 3, I'll be adding inks. So it's a little different from one of my previous videos where I actually took you through the ink and then the color process. In that one, I inked first and then added color on top of the inks. For this one, I'm going to add color, let the colors dry, and then in the next video, I'll be inking. So it'll be a little bit of a different process. Before I get into it, though, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Part 1 of this series, which I'll link to in the description below, was pretty popular. The response was pretty good, and the channel picked up a bunch of subscribers afterwards. So I want to thank everybody who has subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you will. If you enjoy this video, I hope you'll click like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can be notified of future videos. All of that just helps the channel grow and be more popular. And as always, if you have questions, comments, anything at all you'd like to say, please feel free to leave them in the comments section below. I do read those and I do respond to them personally myself. So please do that. Okay, so tonight, to get into it, we have our Archie drawing here. And just to recap from the last time, we drew Archie in pencil on some nice Bristol paper. I have some just basic Bristol paper which will hold up to the markers. What you may want to do if you're not confident in your paper, you may want to have like a piece of scrap paper, a piece of cardboard, and put it underneath the paper that you're working on, just so that the rest of your pad or whatever surface you're working on is protected against any bleed through from the markers. Bristol paper is pretty good and can really hold up to inking, to markers. You want to have at least 2-ply Bristol if you're going to be working with markers, and certainly if you're working with watercolor or anything like that, you may even want something heavier. Okay, so we did the pencil drawing on the Bristol paper. Another thing I want to mention is the pencil drawing as it stands. I drew it darker, probably much darker than I normally would, just because I want you to be able to see what I've done, and so that the lines really show up on the camera. And in fact, I drew so dark. What I want to do first off is to take my eraser. Got a nice brand new eraser here. And believe it or not, I'm going to erase. That's right. I'm erasing everything that we drew last time. And the reason I'm doing that is I just want to be left with a nice ghost image. See? And I'd be doing this even if I drew as lightly as I'd be drawing if I weren't doing this on video. Just because I just want to, I'd rather have the lines be as light as possible. Markers, believe it or not, are a translucent medium, which means you could see through them. So pencil lines, unless you get rid of them, will show up through your markers. And you know, sometimes that can give you a neat effect. Sometimes that could give you this really cool, painterly, kind of sketchy effect. So you may want that. But if you don't, what I would do at this stage is really erase and get the lines off. Now I'm leaving just this ghost image. And it's this ghost image that I'm going to be coloring. Okay, so now that I'm left with that, I'm going to start off with one of my Copics. And this is the R02 flesh tone. Okay, and I'm using the brush tip of my flesh tone. This is just their basic flesh tone. And I'm just gonna add a little color to Archie's cheeks, a little color to his cheeks there, maybe underneath the nose a little bit, sort of indicate a little lower lip, underneath the chin there, a little bit underneath the chin. Okay, now I'm gonna switch over and I'm gonna go to one of my chart pack markers. And the chart packs don't have the soft brush tip of the Copics. The chart pack only has this one beveled tip. And I like the chart pack. A lot of people don't like the chart pack because they bleed. But that bleeding, believe it or not, will help the marker blend better. So I'm going to wherever I would imagine that Archie's skin is going to be a little bit darker, and I'm adding this is pure flesh tone, the flesh tone for this this particular brand of marker, which is a little orangey, but that's okay. Then I'm gonna go in with the pale flesh. Okay, this is from the same brand, chart pack, and with the pale flesh, I am going to go over, and I want to work from the top to the bottom. So what I'm doing is I'm working around Archie's head. Okay, I'm working around. I'm going right over where I drew his eyebrows, because that's going to be black later, and that's fine. I could just go over that. I'm going to go over his nose, leaving his eyes white, going over his nose. I'm going to go over his freckles too. I'll add that over the color. I'm going to go around the mouth, using the sharper end of the point to go around the mouth, going around the face, underneath the lip there. Now, I know you're looking at this and saying, wow, he's looking kind of orangey. That's okay. Always remember that the marker colors dry lighter than how you're applying them. So he's going to be a little orangey right now. And notice too, I'm also starting with the flesh, with his skin tones, because I don't want other colors to contaminate the skin tone. So for example, now I'm going to go with the pure orange to go into the hair. Okay. Go around, go around, go around. It's a little bit of bleeding, but that's okay, because remember, I still have to add inks to this. And the good news is that the inks could actually hide some of that bleeding. And you'll hopefully will see that in part 3 of this series. Okay. So now, already the colors are settling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pink a little bit, and I'm going to just cook those cheeks again to give him that nice rosy look to his cheeks. I'm going to bring out that lower lip, bring out the dimples again, maybe a little bit in the inner ear. Okay. He's getting a nice orangey glow to him, but believe me, that color will calm down. Now I want to go into his shirt. I'm going to give him a white shirt, which means I want to get some of my grays, just so his shirt isn't just flat, pure white. I'm going to go in with some of my grays. Render a few little shadows into his shirt. Give his shirt a little tone. And I'm using here the C3, which is my second lightest gray. My C1 And these are my Copic markers. This is my lightest gray. So I could pick up some of that dark gray that I just laid down and carry that through. Okay, just picking up some of that gray and going around, going around. Okay. Actually, one more detail that I want to cover is I want to color in Archie's tongue, which is pink. And I'm using the Copic because I can get in there and it's a little bit of space that I'm going in there, so I want something with a fine point. So my Copic is good for that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Frost Blue chart pack marker, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around Archie's head. And I got to be very careful because I don't want to bring that blue so close to Archie that it's going to bleed into him. So I'm just going to go around him. And this is something I may pick up again later, just to reinforce. I'm just going to go around him. And just give him kind of this framing bit of color, almost like he's outside. Catching a little bit of the orange there, but that's okay. Believe it or not, there's a lot that we can clean up, pick up in the inking. Okay, and I'm just gonna go nice and loose every which way, without looking sloppy. Just want a kind of a natural halo of blue around him to frame him a little bit. And he is just about done, at least for this stage. Okay. Again, you want to be very careful when you go up against another color because you don't want them to bleed into each other. There's a little bit of bleeding going on right there, but nothing that I can't patch up later. You also don't want to, even though I'm kind of going a little haphazard, you want to be careful because if you go too haphazard, you end up with a lot of streaking and it may end up looking a little too messy. So while you do want to have a little freedom in your strokes, you want to have a sort of a controlled freedom. Again, I try as much as possible to work from top to bottom, and that way it just minimizes that streakiness and it keeps the application of the color looking fairly neat. So I think that about finishes the color. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let that color sit. I'm going to let it dry. It will probably fade some. It will probably get lighter than you see it here. And then I'm going to do, in a couple of days, I'm going to do part 3. And in part 3, like I said, I will be applying the black outlines. I'll be inking this. And hopefully we will end up with a nice finished portrait of Archie. So that about does it, folks. Again, if you have any questions about any of the stuff that I did in this one, please be sure to leave it in the comments below. And I will answer you. Okay, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you at the next one. Okay? Bye-bye, everybody.